It's a story of a school with a class of students that no teacher had been able to handle. 2 or 3 teachers had been run off from the school in 1 year by these unruly students. And a young man just out of college heard about the class and applied to teach at the school. The principal asked the young man, "Do you know what you're asking for? No one else has been able to handle these students, and you're just asking for a terrible beating." After a few moments of silent prayer, the young man looked at the principal and said, "Sir, with your consent, I accept the challenge. Please just give me a trial basis." The next morning, the young man stood before the class and he said to them, "Young people, I've come here today to conduct school, but I realize I can't do it by yourself. I must have your help." One big boy, they called him Big Tom, in the back of the room whispered to his buddies, "I won't need any help. I can take this guy down all by myself." The young teacher told the class that if they were to have school, there would have to be some rules to go by. But he also added that he would allow the students to make up the rules and that he would list them on the blackboard. This was certainly different, the students thought. One young man suggested no stealing. Another one shouted out, "Be on time for class." Pretty soon they had 10 rules listed on the board. The teacher then asked the class what the punishment should be for breaking these rules. Someone in the class suggested that if the rules were broken, they should receive 10 lashes with a rod across their back with their coat off. The teacher thought this was pretty harsh, and obviously in an earlier age than ours. So he asked the class if everybody agreed with this punishment, and the class agreed. Everything went along pretty well for the first 2 or 3 days. Then Big Tom came in one day very upset. He declared that someone had stolen his lunch. After they investigated, they came to the conclusion that little Timmy had stolen the lunch. Little Timmy admitted that he had indeed taken this lunch, and so the teacher asked him, "Do you know the punishment?" And little Timmy nodded that he did. He said, "I'm going to have to ask you to take off your coat." And Timmy said to the teacher, "I'm guilty and I'm willing to take my punishment, but please don't make me take off my coat." The teacher says, "Well, these are the rules," and everybody agreed to abide by them. And as Timmy began to unbutton this old coat, the teacher saw that he didn't have a shirt on underneath. Even worse, he saw a frail and bony frame hidden beneath that coat. The teacher asked him, "Why did you come to school without a shirt on?" And Timmy explained he only had one shirt. His mom and dad were very poor, and today his mom was washing that shirt. The young teacher stood and looked at this frail back with the spine protruding against the skin and his ribs sticking out, and wondered how he could lay a rod on that little back. Still, he knew that he had to enforce the punishment or the children wouldn't obey the rules. So he drew back the rod to strike little Timmy. Just then, someone stood up at the back. It was Big Tom. And he said, "Sir, is there anything that says I can't take little Timmy's whipping for him?" The teacher thought about it and agreed. And with that, Big Tom took off his coat and stooped over little Timmy at the desk. Hesitatingly, the teacher began to put that rod on Tom's big back. But for some strange reason, after only a few licks, that rod just broke in half. The young teacher buried his face in his hands and began to sob. He heard a commotion and looked up to find not even one dry eye in the room. Little Timmy had turned and grabbed Big Tom around the neck, apologizing to him for stealing his lunch. He begged Tom to forgive him. He told Big Tom that he would love him till the day that he died for taking his beating for him. I think part of the reason that this story means so much to me is that in a spiritual sense, I am the little Timmy. And Jesus Christ steps down from perfection in heaven and stoops down over me and takes all the punishment that I deserved. Outside of Christ, I've done far worse than steal a lunch. My hard attitude and my natural self towards God, my selfishness, my pride, my arrogance, all the things I choose to do. Outside of Christ, I'm a wretch, I'm pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. And I deserve eternal punishment for that. And Jesus Christ, because of his amazing grace, takes the beating on my behalf. I don't think all eternity will be enough to thank him.